So, given the choice of choosing my own favourite Bible adventure, I thought it has to do with travel because that's what adventure is to me. And then I thought of Jonah and the whale, but I thought, no, I like cruising, but in the belly of a whale, maybe not. So then I thought of this one. But again, it's not really a fun adventure, is it? So why is it my favourite? Because it adds to the picture that Jesus came to earth as a humble human being. If he'd come as a prince to a palace with guards, he'd have been discounted by those of us that live ordinary lives. But because he came to a cave where cattle were kept, and soon after his birth, within a few months, he had to flee for his life, we know that he understands how tough life can be. We can identify with him because we know he identifies with us. So, secondly, as a trustee of a refugee support agency locally, it also tells me that Jesus understands what it's like to be a refugee. Now, refugees have been in the news a lot lately, haven't they? We've had the largest numbers of ever crossing the Channel to come to this country, and new legislation has been passed in Parliament recently. But I don't want to talk about the politics of the situation, because for every political situation, every political decision, there are individual people who are affected. And Jesus' story helps us to think about the individual and the lives of refugees. And if we're going to have an opinion on the worldwide refugee crisis, we have to understand the individual viewpoint. So Jesus was fleeing in danger. Mary and Joseph were in fear of Jesus' life because Herod wanted to kill anyone who might be Jesus. We don't know much from the Bible about what the journey was like or what the time in Egypt was like. It's 65 kilometres from Bethlehem to the border of Egypt now, which isn't as far as many refugees flee now, but they didn't have a car, they didn't have any transport, they were on foot or on donkey. They had a toddler with them, maybe, or a babe in arms. Either way, heavy to carry, and having spent time with toddlers recently, they always want to walk themselves, but not at the pace you need to walk when you're fleeing. They were trying to avoid the soldiers. They were having to avoid regular paths and things like that because they were in fear of being caught by soldiers who were looking for baby boys. Did they have enough food for the journey as they travelled? Were they able to gather that up before they left Bethlehem? Did they have to carry it with them? How were they greeted when they got to Egypt? Did the locals want them there? Did they know anyone there? We do know that there was a Jewish population in Egypt at the time because they'd had to flee from Judah several hundred years earlier, and they settled across the Sinai and the Nile Delta, and there was a temple at Memphis. But we don't know where they went. Did they settle in one place, or were they moving around for the time that they were there, which we think was 3.5 years-ish? The tourism industry in Egypt celebrates 25 places that Mary, Joseph, and Jesus might have gone during that time. Did they manage to get a home of their own at all, or were they sleeping rough or reliant on the kindness of strangers? Did Joseph find somewhere to earn money? If not, how did they feed themselves? Again, were they reliant on the communities being kind in that respect? Was Jesus able to make friends? He was at a really formative age when making childhood friendships is really important, learning how to get on with other people. What support did Mary have as a young mum? Who did she ask for advice when Jesus started teething or when he threw his first tantrum? Okay, maybe Jesus' humanity stopped short of throwing a tantrum. I'd like to think so. But there are so many questions, aren't there? And all these questions aren't really very different from the questions we can ask about the stories of refugees now. We had a Syrian family in this parish a short while ago for quite a few years. They were supported by a charity called ICN, who are in Bournemouth and I'm now a trustee of. And they supported them to find housing. They supported them with learning the language. They helped the father find work and support him in that. They helped the children find school. They ran homework clubs so that the children could get up to speed. But what did that family have to go through before they got to that house in Merley? You can go and have a look at the website www.icn.org.uk, and on the front page, the landing page, there is a video that tells a bit about refugees and what ICN do to support them. And within that video is a story of a young Kurd called Bashir. He's 19 and he talks a little bit about his journey. He says how he was afraid of the smugglers. They were carrying knives and they used them to threaten them if they didn't keep in line. He was imprisoned in Bulgaria and then he spent 8 months living rough in France. Now, no one chooses that sort of adventure. So what must life have been like? What little hope do these people have in their own countries? Often they're fleeing war and they don't have any hope. They have to flee in order to preserve their life. I feel we have a duty to understand these individual stories. And another website I can suggest to you is the Bournemouth City of Sanctuary website. The address is www.bournemouthchristchurchpool.cityofsanctuary.org. And if you follow the Get Involved section, you don't have to get involved, though it might be nice, but you follow the Get Involved section and there's a Learn section where you can read stories and you can watch videos to learn more about the refugee situation and what causes it, why people become refugees. But Jesus already understands all of this. It's important to us, it's important for us to understand it, but Jesus already understands it all. And the response song that we're going to hear in a minute reminds us of this. The words in it say that God is the God of the broken, the friend of the weak. And as you listen to it, can you ask, how will I respond? Thanks very much.